Ladies and gentlemen, live and exclusively on FightZone from the Doubletree Hilton here in Hull, Fight Academy, in association with Humber Boxing Network and Softmix, proudly sponsored by Callum Scott, and for this contest, Nationwide Leisure Homes proudly presents 4 rounds of action in the super middleweight division. Our timekeeper at the bell for this contest is Stuart Lithgow. Our referee in the ring, Mark Downing, and scoring the contest from ringside, star referee John Latham. Again, Hull, that is our officials. If you're ready to welcome our boxers, let's make some noise! Introducing first and boxing out of the blue corner, wearing dark grey shorts. On the scales, he weighed in 12 stone, 7 pounds and 2 ounces. This evening taking part in his 84th contest as a professional. From London, the Camden caretaker, Robbie Chapman. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome his opponent facing him across the ring and boxing out of the red corner, wearing grey shorts trimmed with black and silver. On the scales, he weighed in 12 stone, 3 pounds and 7 ounces. This evening, making his debut as a professional. From Bridlington, Diamond James Precious.
This is my instruction to make sure
welcome back to FightZone, the third bout of evening. James Precious, his debut v Robbie Chapman. And the experienced Robbie Chapman, let me add, Tommy.
Round 1.
Yeah, I think 84th contest tonight for Robbie Chapman, and debut for James Precious. He's never going to forget this night. You always remember your debut, and he'll be wanting to make a statement tonight in front of his fans. Got a nice sharp start here.
Just establishing a jab. He just wants to make a statement, I think, Precious. He's looking to come out straight away. Yeah, this is how you were on your debut, Tommy?
Probably not as on the front foot as this. I think it's a big night, your pro debut. You want to kind of, it's kind of like a bit of a baptism, innit? Baptism under fire. Your first fight as a professional. Getting your feet wet, and you basically, you want to get that first fight out of the way as a professional boxer. But if you can put in a good performance, memorable performance, even better. And James Precious has started sharp here, and he's got a good style. I think he'll have been a good amateur. He shapes up well. I like his style, putting them shots, right up to the head, left up to the body there. Robbie Chapman, I think he's going to be, he's going to have to be on his toes tonight. Putting all them fights, experience. There's some good combinations there from James Precious.
He's really establishing his authority on this, isn't he, Tommy?
He is, and again, like I said a few fights ago, sometimes that's what you've got to do with these journeymen. You've got to put them into place straight away. You've got to write the script, for the fight on that night. And basically, if they've got any ideas of causing an upset, you've got to put that fire out in them straight away and say, not tonight, pal.
Robbie Chapman playing to the crowd as well.
And again, he's going to use that experience. He's going to try and, fiddle his way through this fight. Try all the tricks in the book. 84th fight tonight. He's putting that shoulder roll to good use, and he's looking out the ring doing the Billy Joe Saunders, but he's going to have to keep his wits about him here tonight, Chapman. He don't want to be getting caught with any of these, you know, fast combinations from Precious. They look vicious, don't they?
I think that's just to give Chapman a breather, just to break up his rhythm.
You know, that was a good first round, you know, very, very sharp, you know, first round from James Precious there. Professional debut from Bridlington, and, you know, that's exactly how we'll have dreamt it last night, you know, walking back to that corner after that first round. You know, nice and sharp work, putting them combinations together. Body shots, head shots, and, you know, he'll be wanting to really build on what he's done in that first round there.
Yeah, it's a good sort of like straightener sort of, well, really dominant like first round by Precious, and it's good to see. You know, he's just establishing behind that jab, trying to go for Chapman, but Chapman, you know, he's got 80 odd fights behind him, so he will not shy to this occasion. It's just another day's work.
I don't think the occasion or the crowd's going to bother Robbie Chapman in the slightest. Like, he seems like a bit of a character, Robbie does, do you know what I mean? Just kind of, you know, he's used to a few boos, you know, takes it in his stride, absorbs it, but he's going to have to stay switched on here. You know, he's in with a very sharp kid making his debut here in James Precious. It's nice, a big shot. Right hand there as well.
Nice shot by that right hand by Precious.
And again, he's doing all the right things, Precious, you know. You know, he's not getting carried away. He shapes up well. He's setting his combinations up very nicely. You see, he's just pouring out with that lead hand, and then the other bigger shots all work off of that. He seems really compact as well. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't seem to be leaving his head high or his chin hanging out. He doesn't seem to be too susceptible to getting caught as well, Precious, which is good to see.
He's just taking centre of the ring and just waiting for anything that comes at him, and Precious sort of flurries and releases.
You know, and he's not in there with just, you know, a straightforward job tonight, James Precious. You know, Robbie Chapman, you know, you can see he's very tricky, you know, all the tricks in the books, and it can be quite awkward as well, you know, so it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how much success, you know, he can have as the rounds go on in terms of, like, you know, putting combinations together. It's first time I've actually seen him box, James Precious. I weren't aware of him like in the amateurs or anything, you know. That's a good,
nice combination there by Precious, yeah.
Yeah, he's been real successful with that kind of like loop right hand over the top. You know, and he's caught Chapman a good few times with that now. And what I like as well, you know, 9 times out of 10 he's going to go down to the body straight after that. So right hook over the top, left up, finish to the body. But yeah, I'm impressed with his style, James Precious. You know, I wonder if he was a decent amateur, because he seems to have got that pedigree about him. You know, he shapes up well.
Yeah, he's certainly got some zip in his punches.
And Robbie Chapman just shaking his head there.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt him, as he can just say.
It might not hurt him, but I guarantee them shots are going to sting. I guarantee that. And he just wants to be careful, Robbie Chapman, that he's not getting caught with anything too clean.
I mean, Tommy, when as a journeyman, what you can do is they're experienced enough to sometimes think, you know what, I reckon I can turn this fight on its head. But as me being controversial, some matchmakers, I'm not going to mention who or whatever, will not book them again if they're just not losing week in, week out on points. Does that make sense? So sometimes they're edgy, like, oh, if they turn a fight on his head, or they think they might not get booked, and like that Bacco in that first fight, you know what I'm saying, which he tried to.
Yeah, well, that's the fine line, and obviously, you know, being a journeyman, being a professional boxer, you know, this is a business, you know, and these guys are boxing week in, week out. And basically, their job is to give the young prospects coming through a good test. But every now and again, if they're really up for the job, you know, to be a good journeyman, you have got to be a good fighter, so they can turn it on at any point. So that's what fighters like James Precious has got to be, you know, well equipped and you know, well aware of. But you know, he's doing a good job so far here tonight, going into this third round of his professional debut.
Got a bit of support here tonight, James Precious, as me here.
Yeah, really loud, really lively, you know, giving Robbie Chapman some boos during his introduction. And you see, you know, he applies again. It's, you know, just tricks of the trade from Robbie Chapman, but he's applying that Floyd Mayweather, you know, Philly shell, you know, defense, and he's quite successful with it. But he just needs to, you know, keep his wits about him here. He's in with a sharp man in James Precious, and it's that big looping overhand right as well. He's had so much success with that.
Just tying him up, Robbie Chapman. Now we'll see if James Precious can establish some more pain on Chapman, or try to at least.
Yeah, you know, I mean, he's having a good, you know, it's been a good debut this so far. I would like him, you know, to maybe turn that screw a little bit now. You know, James Precious, like I said, he's got a good style. He's landed some good shots, some good punches in bunches.
Go for the gears.
Yeah,
basically.
you know, I'd like him to, you know, to try the best he can to really go through them gears and really put in a big performance on his pro debut. You know, one that these fans here aren't going to forget. He's never going to forget it. And I'd love to see him get back on that jab. You know, establish that jab to the head, jab to the body, and especially with the type of combinations that he's been putting together, you know, putting a jab, you know, to start them, it's really going to complement what he's been doing here tonight.
Good combos by James Precious. Trying to... Referee just knocked him out of his rhythm there.
You know, 13 wins on Robbie Chapman's record. 2 of them were knockouts, so it doesn't suggest that, you know, he's a massive puncher.
Nice 1-2 by Precious. Do you think Precious sometimes gets over-eager in times?
Yeah, in terms of James Precious. I mean, obviously you've got to remember he's making his pro debut, so you know he's going to feel a little bit of pressure to perform in front of his fans. But you know, basically all that kind of goes out of the window when you get in the ring. You know, when it's showtime, when that first bell rings, it's down to business, and you know, you go back to your default, what you've been doing in the gym, you know, how you've been performing in sparring, what you've been working on, and then you know, all them nerves that you get, you know, especially on your pro debut, you know, all them nerves that you're going to have in them changing rooms, they just leave you as soon as that first bell rings, and then it's showtime, down to business.
Well, we can both agree that Precious has got these first 3 rounds, and it's been sort of, let's say, a dominant performance. I think Chapman is just... He's just turned up and just tucked up. Done a sort of Dale Arrowsmith, not show much, and just, you know, just what journeymen do.
Seconds out, fourth and final
again,
round.
and you know, a brilliant journeyman. Robbie Chapman really is very experienced, and you know, he's done his job well tonight. You know, again, you know, they'll feel straight away that they're in there with a good kid. You know what I mean? And when they feel that way, you know, I'm sure in the mind it just kind of switches to all right, I'm going to stay nice and safe tonight. I'm not going to get caught too much. And again, that's a problem that the home fighter, in this case James Precious, has got to solve. So they're doing the job as a journeyman. You know, they're giving them problems to solve. And it's up to the other fighter to come through that. That's a good left hook from James Precious there. And again, you know, I'd love to just, you know, see him turn that screw a little bit. You know, he's won every round and he's looked good. And probably that's why I would say, you know, let's turn that screw now. But he's in there with a live, moving opponent in Robbie Chapman. Tricky.
Just caught him well with a shot there, but then Chapman did reply. But it's tricky. It's like the Jacob Spalls fight, Tommy. When you have a fighter that tucks up all the time and shows nothing, it's your job as a home fighter just to open them up. It always is, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, of course it is, you know, but that can be harder than... you know, that can always be harder than you'd think it is on the night, do you know what I mean? And that's why, obviously, you're starting a fight, you're starting nice and steady, just seeing what might work. And as the fight goes on, you naturally go through them gears and, you know, the opponent starts opening up more, unless they're a tough man, like your Dale Harris Smiths, like Robbie Chapman. You know, and this is what they make their living on, you know, just trying to survive when you're in there with a good kid. They're trying to get them rounds out. You know, Robbie Chapman's probably already booked in, you know, another 2 or 3 fights in the next couple of weeks.
I've just seen a bit of blood coming from
Chapman's his
nose now. So obviously that jab has been hammering from Precious.
Yes, definitely. The diamond he's got on the back of his shorts, and he's had a nice shiny performance here tonight in his pro debut.
So approaching to the last part of this fight, I think Precious is looking to finish off strong.
And again, it's a good learning curve, this, for James Precious, because, you know, when you have got to really work for the performance and you're in there with, you know, a tricky customer like Robbie Chapman, it can be frustrating at times. And I think he's done a good job in this fight of not getting frustrated, not falling out with yourself. You know, that's a very good pro debut, that is.
Yeah, you'd be proud of it if it was your coach, if you were the coach of him. We'll see. I mean, obviously we think James Precious has got this. We will see Robert Blundell's official announcement across Tannoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we please have a big round of applause for both of our boxers? After 4 rounds, we go to John Latham's scorecard, which reads 40 points to 36 in favor of your winner. Now 1-0 as a professional, Diamond James Precious.